Please, if you can see my screen, can you just comment in the chat section? Yeah, awesome. So yeah, so okay. So basically for today we'll actually be talking about Git basically GitHub, then GitHub CLI. But I'll have to move fast, and also we'll be doing some basic Linux command as well. So I'll just have to move fast because the time I'm giving is kind of just an hour. So the first question is, why should you work on the command line? Why? What actually is Git? Like, how did Git start? What made people? What made the founder of Git? What made the person think that, okay, let's start something like Git? Let me just quickly paint a scenario for us. So say for instance you have a Word document, or yeah, a Word document, and then you want to share the Word document around to, like, let's say 15 folks, or 15 of your friends, or 15 of your classmates, and then you send this Word document to, let's say, person A, and then person A just wants to make a particular edit. Maybe the heading of the second page was actually not correct, so person A wants to make this small edit. Then you have to send that Word file to person A, probably through email or through WhatsApp or through any media. So after sending this Word document, person B changed the Word document. You are person A now, so person B changed the Word document, just change the heading, and then after sending it back, then person B send the document back to you again. And then when you open the Word document, you realize rather than the person using A, the person used an. So you're like, oh, you made another mistake. Then the person is like, okay, I'll correct it from here. And then the person corrects it and then send it back to you. Now, imagine if you are like 20 people working on this particular Word document. How would changes be made rather? How would the transitioning be? So that is what brought about Git. So basically, Git is actually a control version system. Basically, it was designed and built by Linus Torvald. Linus Torvald is actually the I won't say he's the creator of Linux, but it's actually the creator of Linux kernel, of the kernel rather, they call Linux. So yeah, Git is actually a version control system for tracking changes, for managing source code for large projects, and then for enabling collaboration among developers. Uh, so now, Git. Let me now paint another scenario for you to understand. When I say it's for version control system and for tracking changes. Now imagine, I don't know if you have actually. Let me just check the chat. I don't know how many of us have used. Docs, Google Docs. Can you just type yes or no if you've used Google Docs in the chat section? Okay, awesome. So now imagine the first scenario I painted, whereby you have one document and you are trying to share around for 20 developers. Imagine you using Google Docs and the seamless, how Google Docs make it seamless for you to actually share this document just by sharing a particular link to all those that need access to that particular document. And then you can make, after sharing the link, you can either make the person an editor or a viewer or I think it's comment or something, or commentator or something. So yeah, so basically that is what Git is. That is how Git works basically. Git allows you to share files and allows you to keep tracks of the changes that is being made to that file. If you look at, if you actually see the underlying how Google Docs work as well, it works more or less like how Git works, because I can actually make a comment and then type in some weird stuff, then delete the comment, and then I can go back and check history and see what I deleted, or see what another person typed in, or see what another person edited, or what another person deleted. So basically, that is how Git works when I talk about tracking changes and for version control system. So but actually, there is not just Git alone. Git is not just the only version control system tool. We also have Mercurial. Then I think we have SVN as well. Then also I know Google also has their own inbuilt version control system. So now, how does Git work actually? So how Git works is it creates more or less like a snapshot. I'm still on this slide. Okay. So yeah, it creates more or less like a snapshot for you. I'm bringing Git now to Linux. So yeah, so it creates more or less like a snapshot for you. Now when I talk about you being able to share files around, I think that will come under modularity and flexibility. And when I talk about you being able to, like, just the only thing you are sharing to about 20 folks is probably the URL link of the Google Docs. So that comes when that's when we are actually talking about speed. So yeah, it allows you to share files around. It creates a snapshot for you. Then that snapshot is actually stored on your local system. So now we have different stages when it comes to this snapshot. We have I think you have the staging area. Then you have, after the staging area, where you've committed it to, then where you are pushing to the repository. So basically, when you are pushing into if you are not pushing your changes or your source code or your source file to any repository, it's going to be sitting down on your local system. No one can access it except from you. No one can see the changes you've made, or no one can track any changes you've made except from you. So now back to why you should work on the command line. So working on the command line actually makes things easier for you. I'm not saying you shouldn't use, well, there's also CMD in Windows. So yeah, you could use CMD. Basically, working on the command lines actually makes things easier. Then it brings about speed. Like, you could just type a single command, and then some weird stuff. You just type just one single command, and you see some weird stuff happening. Then unlike using a GUI, whereby you start making a lot of clicks before you actually get a particular output. So actually, the Unix philosophy is that you write programs that do one thing, and then they do it well. So basically, that was how Git. That was the focus of Git. Like, okay, we want to create an application that track files, that tracks source code, that also track changes, and then we want this particular stuff to actually do this thing very well. So still on the Unix philosophy, you have an input, you use the tools, then it generates an output. Okay, so for you now having this file, I'll be showing you all these samples. I just want to run through the slide first. For you now having these source files on your system, let's now say, okay, let's bring it in like this. What if we don't have Google Docs? What if you actually want to, you can't share your code on Google Docs, right? It doesn't make sense for you to share your code on Google Docs. You have to, like, find an online repository for you to share your code in. So GitHub actually created something called GitHub. Basically, I think it was first owned by, I can't remember the company now, but now it's currently owned by Microsoft. So they created an online repository called GitHub. We have many online repositories. Basically, we have Bitbucket, we have GitLab, then we have GitHub. We also have some in AWS and whatnot. But yeah, let's come back on. So we have GitHub. GitHub created this online repository for folks to collaborate, basically, and then for you to actually move your files from your local system, just like for you to move after you type in your Word document, for you to move it to Google Docs. You can actually type your Word document in Google Docs, but if you also type it on your local system and you want to move it, you have to open Google Docs, then probably upload that file, then Google Docs will read in that file, then it will display the file to you. So yeah, so that's how GitHub actually works. So it creates more or less like an online repository for you. Now, that online repository, you can either make it public or private, and the only thing you'll be sharing for anyone that wants to see that repository is the GitHub link. Now, if someone were to actually contribute to your repository, just like how someone can contribute to Google Docs, whereby you'll be sharing that particular link and be making that person maybe an editor or a commenter, or I think it's commentator, I don't know. So, or a viewer. So GitHub also has that functionality where you can actually add quite a number of people, and then you can add them to your repository for them to make changes. It will be they will be like a contributor now to that repository. So let's quickly do a demo on Git and GitHub. So for today, the OS I'll be using. Yeah, so for today, the OS I'll be using is actually Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is actually a Debian distro. It's kind of like the OS for the people, like very easy to use, and then fast, easy, and if you are a Windows user, you could actually easily understand what is going on in Ubuntu. That's if you're using the Ubuntu GLI anyway. So yeah, for now I don't think I have anything here. So let me see if I have Git installed. Basically, most of this tool comes along with Ubuntu. So I have Git installed. So let's make a file. Let's make a directory rather. To make a directory in Linux, use the keyword mkdir. If it is Windows, you have to right click, then click on new folder. So let's make a directory and call it dsc lasso demo. So now I have a directory called dsc lasso demo. How do I see what is currently? How do I see what I created? I can type in ls. Ls will display all what is actually in that particular in the current place I'm in, which is I think is home/vagrant. Yeah. So ls will display what every file that is in every folder that is in that particular place I'm in, but it won't display hidden files. So let me cd into dsc. Like let me change directly into dsc lasso demo. If you are using Windows, you would have right click, create new folder, and then after creating the new folder, you just double click to open this particular folder you created. So yeah, now I'm in dsc lasso demo. As you can see, it has changed the path to this. And if I type in pwd, this is going to tell me I'm in home vagrant dsc lasso demo. And at first it was home vagrant, home and vagrant. So let me create a file. Let me create a text file that we'll push into Git today. Let's call it dsc lasso.txt. So yeah, so let's say welcome is it lasso, right? Let me just say welcome lasso students. So just using it. So yeah, for this particular stuff I'm using something they call Nano. Nano is a text editor for Linux. You could use VS Code as well, or Sublime, or Notepad. So yeah, now I have a test in dsc lasso.txt. Let's see what I have in there. dsc lasso.txt. Okay, as you can see, this is the test I have in there. Welcome lasso student, then just using Git. So yeah, I said GitHub is used for tracking changes, right? It's a version control tool. So the first thing you do if you're actually in a folder, the first thing you do to initialize Git, to tell Git that okay, this particular folder, I want you to initialize a repository for me, a local repository for me. You use the keyword git init. So what git init does is it tells you initialize empty git repository in home vagrant blah blah blah. And now if I type in ls, you will only see dsc lasso.txt. But if you look at this file path, there's something called .git here, but it's not showing at this particular place. That's because in Linux, every folder or every folder basically that starts with a dot is hidden. So how to check an hidden folder? You either use ls-l, ls-a. So yeah, ls-a will show all the hidden folders. ls-l will actually display a bunch of nonsense stuff that I don't talk about right now. So yeah, ls-a will actually display the hidden folder. As you can see now, I have an hidden folder called .git, and all these are also hidden. So yeah, let's do cd.git. Let's check what is inside git ls. So for Git, as you can see, it created this thing called head. It created branches. It created config. It created description. It created hooks, info, objects, and reference. All these are actually what will be used for Git to actually keep track of these changes. Now, all these files are not meant to be touched once created, except if you actually know what you are doing. You could just go in and make some weird changes. Let's see these branches. Git branches. See the branches rather. ls. ls-a. Okay. CD dots. I don't have a branch yet. CD dots. So yeah, except you know what you are doing, as I was saying, you actually are not meant to like go into this .git folder to make any edit, except you actually know what you are doing. Even me myself, I don't make edit on this folder. So yeah, let me clear my screen and then. So I have dsc lasso.txt. I've initialized Git. How do I know what is currently happening on on the file I actually want to keep track of. Use the keyword git status to check the current status of of the current changes, or the current changes of what you're actually doing. So say for instance, as you can see, it says on track files is this. That means this file is actually there, but this file is not being tracked by Git. And also Git also tells you what to do to track your file. It says git add then the file name, or git add dot to track every file that is in that current repository. So let's track this file now. Git add dsc lawsuit. Now let's type in git status. As you can see, it has changed from being red, and one thing you should notice, anytime you see red in Linux, just know you're having issues. But anytime you see green, you're fine. So yeah, so it has changed from being an on-track file to being a track file. Sorry for the noise. To being a track file. So now I have dsc lawsuit.txt being tracked, but currently, let's see git log. The current branch is not doesn't have any commit yet. Okay, so I have lawsuit.txt being tracked, but for you to actually move a file from your local system, like I said, to your repository, you need this tool which is called Git. And then what you actually need, and then how you actually keep new tracking of your files is through something they call commit message. Now, what commit message does is, say I have a folder on GitHub now, and then I add Fawaz as a contributor, and then we are actually working on this single file. We are working on dsc lawsuit.txt, and then I'm making the changes to that file. Fawaz is also making changes to this file. If the two of us are pushing the same file, without no commit message, we won't be able to track what the other person is doing. Say for instance, Fawaz make an heading change, and he make changes in the heading, and then it doesn't have the commit message. I also make a change in the heading, and I didn't have the commit message. If Fawaz push his file and I push my file, how will I know? How will we know what we actually did? Or how will I know this was what Fawaz did? Or how will Fawaz know this was what I did on this file? So that is where git commit comes in. So for git commit, you actually type in, it use the command commit as well, then -m, which means dash message. Then you pass in the message. Let's say initial, let's say created the txt file. Now, the first, as you can see, it says, please tell me who you are. Because now I'm actually using, I actually spin up a virtual box. So, and I don't have all this stuff set in. I'll need to set all this stuff in globally for me to be able to add a commit message. So let's just go ahead and set all these things that is actually convenient in. And please note, you can't use your mouse in the terminal as well. You can only use it for maybe copying a file and pasting the file back. Let's do it. So you have set that, then let me set my username as well. Yeah, so I've set that. Now let's try git commit again. Let's see. So as you can see, it says one file has been changed to insertion. And what was the insertion that was actually in that file? It was just this to stop. So as you can see, it's keeping track of what actually happened. One file was changed, 2 insertions were made. Let's check git status now. It says there's nothing to commit. My branch is clean. And at this place, it's telling me changes to be committed. No commit made yet. But at this particular place, it's telling me there's nothing to be committed. My working tree is clean. So that means I've actually pushed this file right from my local system and it's ready to be moved to GitHub. Now let's make a little change to this particular file we are working on, dsc, and let's add still on git. So let's do git status now. It's telling me, okay, now at this particular place, it's saying I modified the file. It's not seen as a new file that is being created. If you remember from the previous one, it doesn't from the previous command when I typed in git status, it just say that I have this particular file that is being on track. But at this place, it's not telling me I'm not tracking the file. It's telling me yes, you are tracking the file, but now the file has been modified and the file needs to be committed. So let's do git add. The file needs to be tracked rather. Let's do git add dsc to track the file. Let's do git status. Now the file has been committed. The file has been added rather, has been tracked, and now the next thing we need to do is to commit the file. So let's say git commit -n. Made a little change. Now, if you see the output of this commit message, it says of this command, it says one file change, which is this file dsc.txt, then one insertion made, and the insertion we made was actually the new statement we passed in, which is still on Git. So now I've created this file. How do I push this file from my local system to GitHub repository? Probably for us to see. Just a minute. Let me stop this slide. Let me share my screen here. So for that, just a minute. So yeah, let's try GitHub. For you to access, for you to create a new repository, for you to create a new repository, you have to go to github.com. That's their website basically. So yeah, github.com, and then if you open github.com, yours might be different from what I'm seeing here. But then you can just click on to create a new repository. Now you can just click on this plus new repository, then give the repository name. Let's say dsc last demo. So you give it a description. As you can see, the root option and the description is not compulsory. You give a description, but let's just say demo. And now you can either make the repository public or make the repository private. Also, most of the time it makes sense for you to actually initialize your repository with a README, but most of the time you actually create the README from your while you are creating your file. While I was creating dsc.txt from my local system, I should have created the README, but that doesn't mean. Then let's go on and then just click on create repository. I'm using a public repository now. So yeah, the repository has been created, and what's sweet about GitHub is GitHub actually tells you all what you need to do to push your file from your local system to GitHub. So as you can see, it's saying the first thing you should do is echo. Echo means writing this particular stuff in this place to readme.md. MD is a file extension called Markdown. So then it says git init. We've done git init, don't forget. Then git add readme. That's if you're actually pushing this file. We also need to keep track of this file. Then you write a commit message. Then you create a branch. For this particular branch, they're calling it main. Then you do git remote add origin, the link of the GitHub repository you just created. Then adding origin means you're adding the remote URL. At this particular line, you're adding the remote URL. So you are actually telling your local system to see this particular remote URL that you want to push to. And take note, all this stuff will actually be done using the internet. So yes, then the last thing you do is git push -u origin whatnot. But now it says this is for creating a new repository on the command line. Now it says if you have an existing repository from the command line, how do you do it? Now if you actually have an existing repository like us, all you just have to do is add the origin, the remote URL, create a branch called main, and then push to that branch you created. Another way you could actually do it for some folks that actually don't want to use command line, they use import code. So this import code actually, once you click on it, it's going to display a pop-up for you to just drag your code in and drop your files. But most times it's easier. Like I said, Linux is sweet. Using command line is interesting. So it's easier for you to do all this stuff from command line. So let's try all this command from our command line, and then let's push our local txt file with it. Let's push it to GitHub. So let me go to the screen. So yeah, back to the screen. The first command was we should add a remote URL. Git add git remote add origin. Then the link. I'm trying to copy the link right now. Copy origin. So I've added the origin. If I type in git remote -v, you see it's telling me that yes, you've added this origin both for pushing and for fetching. So now the next thing is to create a branch called main. So let's create a branch, initialize a branch -a called main. Now if I type in git branch, I have a branch called main, and as you can see, there's an asterisk on that main. That means yes, I'm on this. The current batch I'm on is called main. So now the next thing to do is for you to push -u origin main. So what this does is git push -u origin, which is the name of our remote URL, as you can see from here. You could actually, this origin I type in here, it could actually be anything. You could actually use any name at all for this particular remote URL. But basically, the way they do it on GitHub is to use origin. You could actually use any name at all. And then also this branch as well could actually be named as anything. So yeah, so I'm pushing to the remote URL and I'm pushing to a branch called main. So let's push this for. It's going to ask for my username and password. Yeah. Then password. What's my password? So as you can see, it's saying counting objects, 6 done, delta conversion, blah blah blah. All these are just GitHub jargons. And then it says branch main set up to track remote branch main from origin. Total file that was pushed was actually 6. Basically, there's actually not 6 files pushed. Basically, then it's saying that okay, this is where I'm pushing the file to, which is this particular link. So now let's go back to our GitHub repository and see what you actually have on there. GitHub. Yeah. Okay, so I'm on the repository now, and yeah, there's actually nothing showing on here, but let's refresh this page. Listen. So as you can see, I have one file on this repository, and the name of the file is dsc last test. So let's open this file and see. And as you can see, what we have written on our local system is actually what is here. So now I told you if I could actually add files as a contributor or add whoever you want to add as a contributor. So to add someone as a contributor to your repository, you click on settings. Then you come to, I think it's manage access here. Manage access. It asks for your password because you're actually using a sudo. Then at this particular place, you can then click on invite a collaborator. Then I think I have Fawaz. Fawaz, please, what's your stuff again? I can't remember. Fawaz, can you type it in the chat section? Okay. Yeah, so as you can see, I have Fawaz carrying, and then I can say add Fawaz carrying to the repository. So what it's going to do is going to send a mail to Fawaz that, oh, this particular user called Adefemi 171 has actually added you as a collaborator to this particular repository. So you won't see any changes at all unless Fawaz make a change and then make a push. So yeah, that's Git and GitHub basically. So look at the stress we actually went through to create a file and to push a file to our repository. Look at all the steps, all the commit message and whatnot, just to push a file to the repository. So GitHub thought of something. They're like, okay, how could we make life easier for developers? How could we make life easier for students? Rather than they going through all this stress, all these stages, what if they just want to push a particular? What if we just create a tool that just make them do all this stuff, this creating of repository, all what we actually did on here? What if you're actually able to do all this stuff basically on our local system? and then all you just have to do is just write some basic command, and then do a little bit of push, and then you're done. So that was what's brought about GitHub CLI. So basically, I'll be taking you through the installation of GitHub CLI, and also I won't talk about installing on Windows or Mac OS. I don't use Mac, but basically all the installations, I'll give you the link where you can actually like get installation for either Windows or Mac, and then I'll be taking you through creating a repository, tracking the repository, then doing some basic navigation. But then before that, so this is how GitHub works. Or let me take you through the installation first. Yeah, let me take you through the installation first. Sorry for that. I actually had light issues, so I had to go fire up. Okay. So yeah, where was I? I was talking about installation, right? So let's do Git installation right now. GitHub installation basically. So let me share my screen. Let me go back to your place. So I don't know if everyone can see my screen.
No, we can't see your screen. We can only see your face.
Wait, can you see my screen now?
Okay, we can see it now.
Okay, so yeah, let me just go back to where I was coming from. Okay, so now let's install GitHub CLI on our local system. Basically, if you see, I don't have GitHub CLI installed or whatnot. Command G is not fine. It's telling me to do install something or whatnot. But I don't have GitHub CLI installed in the system. To install GitHub CLI, I can send you the link, or I'll share the link in the chat. So for anyone that is following. So yeah, that's the link for installing GitHub CLI. I just shared the link now. So yeah, to install GitHub CLI on Linux, because I'm basically using Ubuntu and I'm using Linux. So the first thing you need to do is you need to actually add the key for Linux. Basically, now you need to actually add the key. The key is more or less like the key is more or less like it's more or less like saying, okay, I want to add because normally if I do app search, I think it's app search gh. Yeah. So if I do app search gh, what app search gh does is it checks Linux repository, Ubuntu repository to see everything that is actually there are a lot of stuff in this Linux repository. So let's do app search gh. Let's see if it's going to find gh. Now it's going to display every file that has gh in it. As you can see, there is gh in this particular file. That's why it's displaying this. There is also it's going to display every file that has every application that has gh written in it. But now for us to actually add GitHub CLI to our repository, you actually need to add the key first. Then you need to add the repository. Then you need to make updates to your repository so that your repository can keep track of GitHub CLI. Then you need to install GitHub CLI. So to add the key, like I said, I've shared the link for installing GitHub CLI. And also this, if you are following, if you want to install it on your Linux, this is the link for installing on Linux. So yeah, let me add the key from here. You see executing. Yeah, it's still executing. So after adding the key, the next thing is actually to add the repository. Let's look for that too. So I think that's added the key. So the next thing is for us to, as you can see, it says total number processed is one, imported is one, and then key develop the Nate Smith. I think this was the person that created the key also. Nate Smith was imported. So yeah, let's add the repository. To add the repository, you sudo apt add repository, then the repository you want to add. So now as you can see, is downloading the repository into our Ubuntu, the image or the OS local repository. Now is downloading this particular repository, CLI.github.com, into our own local repository. So now that we have it locally, the next thing we have to do is update this repository using the command sudo apt update. Now you won't have to go through all this phase if you actually installed, but I didn't install it so that you can see how the installation is being done. So now we've added the repository, we've updated our local repository. Now, as you can see at this particular point, it's saying, oh yeah, we have this particular repository now on our local system. We have CLI GitHub packages on our local system. So the next thing we need to do now is install GitHub CLI, and the command to do that is sudo apt install. And the name of that GitHub CLI is called GH, basically. So now it's going to download GH locally on my system, and it shouldn't take so long. Yeah, it shouldn't take so long. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to download GitHub CLI on my PC. On this particular environment, which is Vagrant at 4007. Yeah, so it's still downloading it, unpacking it now. Yeah, now it has downloaded. So you know at first when I type in GH, it actually displayed no command found or something. Now let me type in GH. As you can see, since it works seamlessly with GitHub from the command line. Usage, GH command, subcommand flags, core commands. These are the core commands: issue, PR, blah blah blah, additional commands, flags, examples, environment variables, learn more, feedback, and whatnot. So let's just check GH version. So it's telling me the version I'm using was created in the version I'm using is 1.2.1, and I think this was created. I'm not so sure. Yeah. And the date it was actually created was 2020 11. And it's the latest GitHub version I'm using. So yeah, since I have that installed now, let's come back to the slide. So since I have that installed now, the next thing is actually, okay, I have GitHub CLI installed. From the terminal the other time, you realize it actually showed something like GH, then command, then subcommand. So basically, that's how GitHub CLI works. GH is the main command, is the GitHub CLI command, then followed by the command you actually want to pass in, then followed by a subcommand. Say, for instance, I actually want to create an issue. So issue is more or less like on this repository, as you can see, there's something called issues here. So issue is more or less like probably I'm running this particular. Let's assume this is a repository that has a lot of code in it, and I'm running this particular repository. Then I'm running the code in this particular repository, and I realized there was a bug or there was something I couldn't do. So I could just open an issue and just tell the developer that, oh, while I was running this repository, I did this. I installed, I did this, and then after doing this, this was the output, and this was the error I was having. And then the developer or whoever created that repository, you see that, oh, someone actually has an issue with this repository. Let me see what with this code. Let me see what's going on. And then it will recreate the process and see the issue you are facing. And if it's actually a bug from the code, it's going to fix it up. And if it's a bug from your end, the person will actually comment that, oh, this is not my issue, is your issue. Fix it. Or it's going to tell you, okay, this is what you're meant to do to actually fix this particular issue. And then you have something called pull request. If I was actually making a pull request using Git, while I was using just basic Git, I would need to come here then open a pull request, create new, and all those nonsense. But GitHub actually takes that, abstracts all this stuff away, and then put it in the command and then you can actually run all this stuff rather in the command line. So yeah, the next step now is, okay, we've installed we've installed GitHub CLI, we have Git installed. Also, one thing is GitHub CLI doesn't work as GitHub CLI. It also underneath it uses Git as well. But rather than you coming to your, what's it called now? Rather than you coming to the web link to github.com to actually start using your mouse to create some repository or whatnot, you could actually do all that in the terminal, in which I'll be showing us as well. So also there are some stuff you could also do using GitHub, some command. We have what is called create. You could create, we have issues rather. So you could create an issues, you could list an issues. As you can see, I wrote here gh command subcommand. So this is the command issues, and these are the subcommand. You could create an issues, you could list issues, you could check the status of an issue, you could view an issue. Then we have PR, which means pull request, which is this pull request. Yeah. So from here, you could also create a new pull request. You could check out a pull request. You could view, you could list, and you could check the status of a pull request. Also, you could also create a repository. This repository is also a command. As you can see from here, I wrote gh command subcommand. So this is a command. So rather than you coming to this particular place and clicking on new repository, all this can be done in the terminal. So you could create a new repository. You could fork a repository. Fork is more or less like, and it's creating a copy of someone's repository in your own GitHub account. Say for instance, Faraz wants to fork this repository I created, this DSL lasso. All you have to do is just come to my repository and then click on fork. There will be a command called fork. Let me just show you that command. Let me find someone's repository and just show you the command. So let's say I have this npm up. Let's just use this example. So yeah, as you can see at this particular place up here, there's something called fork. So if I click on this fork, it's going to create this npm up on my own local repository, and I can work on npm up on my own local repository. And what I'm working on actually won't affect this person repository. It won't affect the person repository unless I open a pull request. So that's what fork means. Then there's also clone. So what clone does is, clone actually copy this particular repository on your local system. Why fork will copy this particular repository on your GitHub account? Clone will create a copy of this repository on your local system. Fork will create a copy of this repository in your GitHub account. So that's just the difference. And then you can view the list of repository you have. Also, there are quite a lot of commands. Then this is for issues. This is for issues. And then you can pass in flags after all with the issue you are creating. You can pass in some flags, to just additional flags to show what you're actually doing. And then I'm trying to rush and go out to the demo. So this is still talking of this is actually talking about issues. Then this is talking about pull requests, that is creating pull requests, checking out list, view status. All what I've listed here, I'm just like trying to explain it more at this particular place. And then we have GitHub repository, create, fork, view, clone. Now let's go to the demo. Let me share my terminal screen. Share screen. I hope you guys can see my terminal now. So, can everyone see my terminal?
Yes, we can.
Yes or no? Okay, awesome. So now, like I said, to actually start using GitHub, you actually need to make a few configuration in the sense that okay, to know this particular this particular GitHub CLI is owned by you or is owned by whoever you're actually creating it for, you actually need to make just few changes basically. So let me just do something here. Let me create another folder. Let's bring it up, create the folder right here. Let's set config. Config set. Okay. So config. I'm going to set my user at this particular place. Okay, let's create a repository first, and let's see if it's going to work out. GH repo create. I think we need to pass in the repo now. Let's say yes. So it's saying welcome to GitHub CLI. I will need to first authenticate before I start using this command. So let me authenticate. AUTH login. It's saying what account do you want to log into. So there is actually, apart from the main GitHub everyone uses, there's also something called GitHub Enterprise Server. That one is for basically it's for the companies are actually the one that use those ones, like big companies that have money. So yeah, saying how do I want to log into my account? Do I want to paste authentication token or do I want to log in via a web browser? Let me just use web browser. Then it's going to open. It's going to open GitHub in my web browser for me, but I think this stuff is not in my web browser. So please press enter to open github.com. Fail to open because I'm using an image, so it's giving me this error. Let's see. Let me authenticate using authentication token. So you can generate the process authentication token from here, then the minimum token required there, place your authentication token. Okay. Let me just create a new authentication token. Sorry. Settings. Just give me a few minutes to create this. Tokens. Let me copy this now. So do this. Okay, so generate, or should I show you this? Or is it necessary I show this, or I can just go on? Let me generate a new token. Let me just generate a new token, and let me call the token DSC. DSC plus then. Okay, let me wash it up. So let me just click on the token and then I should be running it very soon. Paste. Okay, then this token. Just a minute for us. I'll be done in about 5-10 minutes now. Copy. So let me just use the default. So yeah. So now I've generated the new token. I've actually authenticate GitHub right now. So let me create this particular repository. So it's telling me how do I want to create that repository. If you remember, while we were creating a repository as well, it was like saying public, private, and whatnot. So let me just say private. Saying this will create DSC last in your current directory. Yes, I want you to create it. Create a local directory for yes, create it. Now it has actually, as you can see, it initialized by itself. It did git init by itself, and then it's initialized in this particular repository. You know, at first I was only just having one repository in my own background directory. So let's do ls, and now you should see two repositories. You have DSC last one, DSC last demo. So let me see the into DSC last two and ls. Now let me do ls dash a. So now it has this .git there. So let me create a file. Let me call the file. Let me just echo it into this particular file. Echo. Sorry. Echo. Yes. So yeah. So I have the file called. I have a text called hello in my readme.md. So now I've created a repository. How do I push this particular repository? If you remember, we have something called we have like I said underneath GitHub will actually be using Git. This particular file I did is actually not tracked. So if I check Git status, you'll see it's not tracked. So let me just git add. Let me git add and commit and write the commit message. Git add dot. So yeah, I've added the file and I've created the commit message. So the next thing now for me to do is actually to push this particular file to my GitHub repository. So how do I actually push this? Like I said, I've created a repository already. So what I just have to do is run the command git push -u origin. Now let me first check my branch. Git branch. It created the master branch for me. So, and if you check git remote -v, you should see the link here. Remember, I didn't do git remote add at this place, and I didn't create a branch. It's the command gh repo create did all this for me. So what I just have to do is just git push -u origin. As you can see, the name of the URL is origin, and the name of the branch is master. So it's asking for my username. I made a mistake in my name. So now it's also pushing this particular file I created. This particular file, yeah, it's pushing this particular file I created. So let's go to my GitHub account now. Let me share my screen at that particular place. And I think this is just the last step. Yeah, this is the last step. So, and let's go to my repository. And now, as you can see, I have this repository that was updated 26 seconds ago. So let's see what's inside this repository. I have the readme, the file I created. What's inside the readme? And then I have hello. So yeah, basically you can see how easy it was for us to actually create a repository, right into that repository, then just push that repository to an online repository, which is GitHub basically. So that is the power of what's it called? That is the power of GitHub CLI. That is what GitHub CLI gives you out of the box. You can also create pull requests from your terminal. Create a pull request, view the status or check out, do what you want to do, rather than you coming to your browser to do all this stuff. You can actually just do all this in your terminal. So yeah, that is the end of my presentation. So if you have any question, you can drop in any question. And yeah, this particular slide was created by this person called Visual Partner. It was first used by this lady called Ala Columbia or something. What's her name? Yeah, that's basically it. Thank you. Hello, Flowers.
Hello? All right, yes, I was actually having issue unmuting my mic. Thank you very much, Adefemi. It was really a nice session, and I've learned a lot. I was even thinking I actually know GitHub and Git, but I realized that there's still more to learn. Actually, that's how Stack is. All this kind of technology stuff, you have to continue learning. So thank you very much for your time. 1 hour of the time is really a lot, and we are really grateful for showing us GitHub and GitHub CLI. Thank you very much. So I don't know if anybody have any question for us. So if you have any question, you can drop the question. If you don't have question, I'm going to try. I'm not promising it, although I'm going to try to create everything that was said here, the links and other necessary things that I feel like to help. So I will send it to everybody's mail that registered for this event. So that's it. So I think there's no question. So in the absence of no question, we'll just call this call a day. So thank you very much for everybody that attended. And thank you, Femi.
For having me.
Adiola, also thank you very much too for taking time to organize this event for us. Really appreciate.
Sorry, tell me, we meet at the other side.